iHeart, get ready. Fantasy football is here. Welcome to the Scout Fantasy Show. ScoutFantasy.com is home to the Fantasy Football World Championships and the best players in the world. Real money winners giving their secrets to help you win. Now exclusively on iHeart. This is the Scout Fantasy Show with your host, the one, the only, Dr. Roto.
It's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards. Get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. That's right. We are back with the Fantasy in a Nutshell series. I'll do it in print. I'll do it in podcast. You're just going to get all the information I could possibly give you before the season starts. So let's kick it off today. Let's kick it off with none other. We're going to go alphabetically. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to start with the letter A. And A today, the Arizona Cardinals. So we will begin with, at quarterback, from USC, Carson Palmer. I am not touching Carson Palmer with a 30-foot pole this year in fantasy. Maybe if I'm in a 2-quarterback league and or a best ball format where I can pick 3 guys, I'll take Carson Palmer. But I'm not taking Carson Palmer in any other draft. Telling you that right now. Just don't believe in him. Now, look, the numbers were there last year. I can't tell you that they weren't. The dude had over 4,200 yards and 26 touchdowns. So you could say, Dr. Roto, hello, look at the numbers. The numbers were there. But Carson Palmer wasn't the same guy to me. He wasn't the same guy. I know he was dealing with a concussion last year. Right? He got sacked a ton. This is a guy who's 37 years old. He's had a lot of injuries in the NFL. He's gotten a lot of beatdowns. And what I saw last year was a guy who lost arm strength. That's what I saw. Maybe somebody else saw something different. I thought he was missing certain passes. I thought he was missing his receivers. And he looked a little skittish back there. Now, can you blame him? No, I am not blaming Carson Palmer one bit. The dude will go down as one of the top quarterbacks. I don't want to say top quarterbacks to ever play. I think he will go back. At quarterbacks, he's a 7 out of 10. It's a good quarterback in NFL history. Got nothing to be ashamed of. He's a good quarterback. Dealt with more injuries than most, but he's been a good quarterback. The problem is he's getting older, without a good offensive line, and I think he's a little skittish back there. And I'm going to go on the record and say this. I think Drew Stanton gets 2 to 3 starts this year. I do. I think Stanton gets 2 to 3 starts this year. Don't ask me why. I just think it's possible. And this is not me that I like Drew Stanton. Trust me when I tell you, I did not wake up this morning and say, Drew Stanton's my guy. Never thought that. I think what they're going to have to do is change this offense, which I don't think Bruce Arians is going to do. I just don't see Bruce Arians doing it. I think they'd have to go to a more quick pass, quick strike offense. I'm not sure that's how the Cardinals play. Right? So I'm not liking Palmer this year. I'm very down on him. I mean, could you get him in the 16th, 17th round of a draft? You probably could. And that tells you something. You couldn't have done that a few years ago. But right now, that's where you're taking Carson Palmer. The guy I'm taking number 1 overall, numero uno, number 1, he's my guy, David Johnson. Okay? So let me just tell you how special David Johnson is. Forget the rushing yards, which were enormous last year. Okay, he had over 1,200 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns. The dude had 80 receptions. 80 receptions for 879 yards. Okay? His own teammate, Larry Fitzgerald, had 100. So what does that tell you? I mean, that's how good David Johnson is. If I am drafting number 1, I am not getting cute. I am taking David Johnson, number 1. End of story. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Yes, Le'Veon Bell is great. Yes, Ezekiel Elliott's great. Yes, Antonio Brown is great. Thank you very much. I'll take David Johnson. I had the number 7 pick last year, and I got David Johnson. I was upset at the time. What an idiot I was. I won the league. Beat Dr. Roto? Beat David Johnson. Good luck with that. I had Johnson, I had Drew Brees, I had Brandon Cooks Roto. I was good to go. Boom. Score. So David Johnson's my guy. He should be your guy too. Don't play around with it. He's 25 years old. He's going to get about 30 touches a game, 25 to 30 touches a game. Nothing more that can be said. Okay, backup running back. Most people will think it's Andre Ellington. I don't. I don't think they've ever really decided where to play Andre Ellington. He was a running back. Arians didn't love him. He couldn't get too many carries a game. He didn't trust him. Then he became a wide receiver. Now he's a running back. When they start moving your position, here's a hint. Here's a fantasy tip for you. When they start moving your position, it's never a good thing for your career. Because if they liked you at some spot, they'd keep you there. But if they move you here, and they move you there, and they move you here, and then it's never that good. Okay? So you can draft Andre Ellington. I'm not drafting Andre Ellington. I'm drafting a guy named Kerwin Williams. I'm drafting Kerwin Williams. I like Kerwin Williams. Now, there's 2 times I'm drafting Kerwin Williams. I will tell you these times. 1, if I own David Johnson and I'm in a 20-round draft, I have no problem taking Kerwin Williams in round 18, 19, or 20. That's one way. That makes a lot of sense to me. 2, to be a jerk. If I see a team has David Johnson as stacked, I might take Kerwin Williams in like round 16 or 17 just so that guy doesn't get him. Right? Just so that guy doesn't get him. I don't want this guy to not only have David Johnson have his backup, I might steal his backup. I might do that. Now, let's talk about stealing somebody's backup. I would only do that when it benefits my team. I wouldn't be a jerk for jerk's sake. That's just not cool. And at the end, that always bites you in the butt. Whenever you're a jerk for jerk's sake, it's never good. But if you're doing it and it benefits you as well, so here's what I say. It's round 17 and Kerwin Williams is still on the board. And I'm going through running backs and I'm looking at some slop here at the end, right? I mean, these are just bad guys, none of whom I really like. I'm trying to decide between, Fozzie Whitaker and Jeremy Langford and, guys like Devontae Booker, and then I'll say to myself, okay, I'm taking Kerwin Williams. I don't need to leave Kerwin Williams there for the David Johnson owner. I'm not going to do that. If it's round 17 or 18, it's fair game. Okay? I'll give you your shot to take the guy. You don't take him, at some point he's mine. So I'm not going in here telling you all to take Kerwin Williams. I'm telling you if it's round 18 of a 20-round draft and there's nothing else out there and he looks good to you, pull him. And if I own David Johnson, I absolutely would pull him. Okay. Wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald. The great Larry Fitzgerald. I have to say the following. I'm a little down on Larry Fitzgerald this year. And I can't see how I'm going to draft him. So what I try to do is this. I think of the player. I think of the round he's going to go. I think of the spot he's going to go. And I ask myself, am I going to be able to take this guy? I don't see me drafting Larry Fitzgerald. Here's the only way I see it. If I have pick 9, 10, or 11, or 12, and it's the 3rd round, and he's still there at 3-9 or 3-10 or 3-11, I'll pull him. Outside of that, I'm not taking him. That said, I doubt he makes it to me because there's always some guy at a draft table who likes Larry Fitzgerald more than I do. Okay, there's always some guy who does. Now let me throw this at you. Larry Fitzgerald had 107 receptions last year for 1,000 yards. Only 9 yards, basically a little over 9.5 yards a reception. But that was when John Brown wasn't healthy. Now John Brown is back. David Johnson's still there. J.J. Nelson's a more part of this offense. Do I think Fitzgerald gets 100 receptions this year? I don't know about that. I don't feel great about that. And I'm the guy who told you I really didn't like Carson Palmer. So if I don't like Carson Palmer, how can I tell you to love Larry Fitzgerald? So I'm okay with Fitzgerald. I respect Fitzgerald. I like Fitzgerald personally. I'm a fan of Fitzgerald. I just don't see him on my team. Here's a guy, though, that I do see on my team, John Brown. John Brown was a guy the Cardinals really, really liked. But last year, he dealt with a preseason concussion, and he had this cyst in his spine, which was a real problem. He was dealing with sickle cell. He was a mess. So he really only had 39 receptions last year, but he didn't seem like John Brown. He had, one touchdown last year? Two receiving touchdowns? Two. He had one game of over 100 yards. I mean, this was not the John Brown we know and love. John Brown is a difference maker because of his speed. John Brown was the guy that Bruce Arians was like, who is this guy? We got to get him on the field. John Brown is a fast, elusive, good wide receiver too, on his team. For our purposes, I think John Brown's a wide receiver 4. After I've got my 3 guys locked up, I'll look at John Brown, ideally as a 4, maybe even as a 5. If I can, I'll say ideally as a 5, I'd take him as a 4, right? I won't love him as a 4. I'll love him as a 5. I think he could have a good year. I do. I think he could have a good year. Not a great year, because I don't think Palmer's going to have a great year, but I think he could have a good bounce back year. Okay, and if you can get him, I have absolutely no problem with that. The next player I want to cover is J.J. Nelson, who, if you remember J.J. Nelson, in the important weeks of the fantasy playoffs, had 4 touchdowns. And in week 16, 3 for 132 and a touchdown, he got people a fantasy title in Seattle. All right, so we remember J.J. Nelson fondly, don't we? So let me give you a hint, okay? Here's a fantasy tip for you. We always talk about handcuffing our running backs, but why don't we ever handcuff our receivers? If I own John Brown, I would love to get J.J. Nelson, because if something happened to John Brown, I could put J.J. Nelson in there. So I'm really comfortable J.J. Nelson as my wide receiver 6 if I take John Brown as my wide receiver 4. Even if I have Larry Fitzgerald, I might take J.J. Nelson later on. That, to me, makes a lot of sense. People don't often do that. Here, that's a fantasy tip for you. Think about handcuffing your wide receivers. Right? Your guy goes down, you've got the guy. If you had John Brown last year and he didn't do what you wanted and you had J.J. Nelson, would you have been happy? I think you would have with 568 yards and 6 touchdowns. You would have been okay with it. So sometimes I want you guys to think about handcuffing your receivers. All right, at tight end, Jermaine Gresham got a 4-year contract with the Cardinals this offseason. Now look, he knows Carson Palmer back from his days in Cincinnati. This is a very big dude who's a good blocker, which is very helpful. He's a decent enough receiver who can get about 40 to 50 catches in this offense. I mean, Bruce Arians doesn't use the tight end that much, but Carson Palmer knows him and trusts him. And this is a way to get Carson Palmer to come back, right? I got Gresham there for you. All right, I got Jermaine. All right, I'm good, right? I don't have to learn somebody new, right? Jermaine Gresham is going to be on this team as long as Carson Palmer is going to be on this team. I'll tell you that right now. When Palmer's gone, you may lose Gresham, but when Palmer's there, this is the security blanket. This is his whoopee, okay? Jermaine Gresham is Carson Palmer's whoopee. No doubt in my mind in that. Don't tell me Troy Nicholas, please. That was a terrible pick at the time. I could have told you that 100 years ago, right? Please. Jermaine Gresham is his whoopee. He's going to be out there. He's going to block. He's this big, strong guy. He'll get about 40 receptions. Would I take Jermaine Gresham? In a 2 tight end league in the last round, sure. Anything more than that, not interested. Okay, Phil Dawson is a new kicker there. He's 42 years old, and let me say this. I don't think he's got the booming leg that he used to have. He had a big leg at one time. Phil Dawson back in like 2011, 2012, he could really kick it. I think as the years go on, obviously he's gotten older, and I think he's going to be pretty darn good within 45 yards. The problem was this. The problem was that Chandler Catanzaro sucked. I mean, this guy was terrible. At the end of the game, the Cardinals would get down to a 38-yard field goal. Catanzaro miss. That'll kill a team's morale. Phil Dawson's not going to blow those games at the end. He's just not. So I think Cardinal fans will be happy with Phil Dawson. And then when Phil wants to retire, he's already in Arizona. Hello, score. So let's look at the Cardinals' schedule at the end here. In this playoff schedule, Tennessee in Week 14, at the Redskins in 15, the Giants in 16. I'd say this is okay. Tennessee's an interesting team to me. Are they good? The secondary's still a little rough. I think that's a plus. At Washington, that could be a high-scoring game for sure. I mean, I think that's a plus. Home for the Giants. Look, it's Christmas Eve. How madly do the Giants want this game? We'll have to see. I kind of think that this is not the worst matchup ever, especially the Giants are on the road. So the Giants will play good defense. I don't know. This is not a turn-off game, but look, I'm not looking at Palmer or Fitzgerald in my playoffs. I'm looking for David Johnson. Do I like him against Tennessee? Yes. Do I like him against Washington? Yeah. Do I like him against the Giants? Not as much, but he can catch passes against the Giants. And here was a lucky move. They play Seattle in Week 17. So, if you're worried about Seattle, don't be. They only get them that one time. Okay? They only get them one time, week number 10. Bye week for them is Week 8 as well. Okay, but it's time now to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. So this was our Fantasy in a Nutshell series, beginning with the Arizona Cardinals. And you will be able to find this in print and on podcast. I say different things all the time. I don't even know what I say half the time. But I throw it out there for you because I want you to win a league championship. I want you to join scoutfantasy.com. Enter the promo code ROTO. That's ROTO. Pay for 1 month. We'll get you one more month for free. Or actually 2 more months for free. How about that? And you'll be part of a winner. You get our DFS information. You get Sean Childs' information, Adam Ronis' information, my information to help you win. And if you go to playffwc.com right now, go to our draft lobby, find a draft that makes you happy, enter different price points, online championship, the world championship, the main event, wherever you want to draft, and go, a starter league, we're there for you. Best payouts, awesome customer service, a wonderful drafting experience. And of course, for those of you who want to come out to Vegas, baby, come to the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas. We're going to be in a bunch of suites this year. Looking out on Vegas, baby. Drafting in a suite. It's going to be a great time. It's not a big ballroom of 50,000 square feet where we feel like there's 5 of us in the middle of a 50,000 foot ballroom. This is going to be in a suite in Vegas. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope I see you there. All right, guys, wishing you a great day. Be well. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Scout Fantasy Show. There's never been a better time to join the Scout Army. Visit scoutfantasy.com. Use the promo ROTO for 2 months free. And don't forget, fantasy players, please thumbs up the podcast on the iHeart app. See you next time. Go Scouts!